There is a roll of mesh at your hardware store right now, sitting on a shelf between the window screen replacements and the gutter guards. It costs $18. It weighs almost nothing. When installed correctly along your roofline, it drops attic temperatures by up to 45 degrees Fahrenheit, without electricity, without mechanical systems, and without a single moving part. A ventilation engineer in Tucson, Arizona measured his attic at 152 degrees Fahrenheit on a July afternoon. 6 weeks later, with $22 worth of aluminum mesh and a single weekend of work, the same attic was reduced to 107 degrees Fahrenheit at peak sun. His air conditioning had been running 6 hours daily through previous summers. It now runs under 2 hours. His August electricity bill dropped by $210 compared to the same month the prior year. The roofing industry knows this mesh exists. They have known since 1987, when a building ventilation researcher named Carl Weathers filed a patent for a specific ridge and soffit mesh configuration that created a sealed convective loop inside residential attics. One that pulled superheated air out through the ridge continuously, passively, driven entirely by the temperature difference between attic air and outside air. No fan, no electricity, no maintenance. The patent was granted. Then a consortium of roofing material manufacturers purchased the licensing rights. The product was never brought to mainstream market. The residential roofing industry, worth $47 billion, continued selling you dark asphalt shingles, inadequate ridge vents, and replacement roofs on a 15-year schedule that the right mesh and airflow configuration would have dramatically extended. This is the story of passive convective attic ventilation, the cheapest thermal management solution ever designed for residential buildings, and the patent that the roofing industry bought specifically to make sure you never installed it. Before we go further, if this is the kind of knowledge that should never have been buried, hit the like button right now and subscribe to Lost Tech Vault. Every video we publish here is a door they spent money keeping locked. Subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss the next one we open. The physics behind this mesh is older than every modern building material combined. It is called the stack effect, and it has been moving air through structures since humanity first built enclosed spaces. Hot air is less dense than cold air. Less dense air rises. When superheated attic air sitting at 150 degrees on a summer afternoon has a path to exit at the highest point of the roof, it rises and escapes. As it exits, it creates a zone of lower pressure inside the attic. Cooler outside air, drawn in along the roofline at lower elevation, fills that pressure gap. That incoming air is then heated, rises, and exits again in a continuous loop. Entirely passive and entirely free, it runs every minute the sun heats the roof, which is exactly every minute your air conditioning is fighting its hardest battle. The ancient Romans understood this principle well enough to engineer it into their public bathhouses 2,000 years ago. Their caldarium, the hot room, had deliberately positioned roof openings that created continuous convective airflow, managing interior temperatures in massive stone buildings without any mechanical assistance whatsoever. Medieval cathedral architects used the identical principle. The soaring vaulted ceilings that define Gothic architecture were not purely aesthetic decisions. They were passive thermal management systems, drawing heat upward and away from the occupied space below through carefully calculated proportions that modern HVAC engineers still study today. The principle is not complicated. What Weathers patented in 1987 was not the physics. You cannot patent physics. What he patented was a specific mesh geometry, a calculated perforation pattern, and a combined ridge and soffit installation configuration that maximized convective throughput while simultaneously blocking insects, debris, and driven rain. The combination created a sealed, optimized convective loop that outperformed every ventilation product on the market by a margin the industry found deeply uncomfortable. In 1984, 3 years before Weathers filed his patent, the Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory published a study on residential attic ventilation efficiency that should have permanently changed how every roof in America was built. Their findings were unambiguous. Standard roofing industry ventilation practices, the small rectangular soffit vents, and inadequate ridge caps installed on the majority of American homes were achieving between 15 and 25% of the theoretical convective ventilation possible for a given attic volume. That means up to 85% of the natural cooling capacity inside every American attic was being left completely unused. Not because the physics was unavailable, but because the products the roofing industry specified were deliberately undersized and incorrectly positioned. The reason becomes clear the moment you understand the business model behind it. A properly ventilated attic that maintains temperatures within 20 degrees of outside air does two things that the roofing industry cannot afford. It dramatically reduces thermal cycling stress on shingles, the repeated expansion and contraction caused by daily temperature swings from 150 degrees down to 70, which is the primary mechanism that degrades asphalt shingles and drives the 15 to 20-year replacement cycle the entire industry depends on. And it removes the heat load responsible for the majority of residential cooling costs, reducing demand for air conditioning systems that represent a separate $120 billion industry with its own powerful reasons to keep your attic cooking every summer. An attic that stays cool does not wear out your roof quickly. An attic that stays cool does not run your air conditioning constantly. Two industries, $167 billion in combined annual revenue. Sharing a single enemy, adequate airflow through a $20 roll of mesh. When Weathers submitted his patent application in 1987, he included independent thermal testing data conducted at the University of Arizona Building Science program. Test structures with his mesh configuration installed showed attic temperatures averaging 44 degrees Fahrenheit lower than identical control structures with standard industry ventilation during peak summer hours. Not 5 degrees, not 10 degrees, 44 degrees, measured, documented and submitted to the United States Patent and Trademark Office as part of the official patent record. The patent was granted in 1989. Patent number 4815242. It is publicly accessible in the USPTO database now. Read the claim section. The thermal performance data is there in black and white, submitted under oath as part of a federal patent application. Within 18 months of the patent being granted, a purchasing agreement was negotiated between the patent holder and a roofing materials consortium. The specific terms of that agreement are not public record. What is public record is what happened next. The product was never manufactured at commercial scale. It was never distributed through building supply channels. It was never specified in residential construction guides. And it was never mentioned in the contractor training materials that shaped how every roofer in America learned to install ventilation systems through the 1990s and into the present day. The mesh that dropped attic temperatures by 44 degrees in peer-reviewed university testing simply ceased to exist as a commercial option. Not because it failed, because it worked. What makes this suppression story different from others is the paper trail. Most buried technologies disappear quietly, leaving only scattered anecdotes and second-hand accounts that the industry can dismiss as unverified. This one left documents. The Lawrence Berkeley study is publicly archived. The University of Arizona thermal testing data was submitted to a federal agency under oath. Patent number 4,815,242 is readable by anyone with internet access today. The purchasing agreement between Weathers and the roofing consortium, while not detailing its terms publicly, is a matter of patent transfer record. This is not a conspiracy theory built on absence of evidence. It is a documented sequence of events: independent research, patent application, federal grant, industry acquisition, commercial disappearance, that follows a pattern repeated across dozens of inconvenient technologies throughout the 20th century. The pattern is always the same. The research gets done, the patent gets filed, the industry buys the rights, the product never ships. And the problem the technology solved continues generating billions in recurring revenue for the companies that needed the problem to remain unsolved. What changed in 1989 was not the physics of convective airflow. What changed was who owned the rights to the most optimized implementation of it. The consequences play out inside 80 million American homes every single summer. The average American attic reaches between 130 and 150 degrees Fahrenheit on a hot afternoon. The insulation layer below absorbs and re-radiates that heat downward into the living space continuously. The air conditioning system runs to compensate, consuming between 40 and 60% of total household electricity during summer months, according to Department of Energy data. That consumption represents, nationally, hundreds of billions of dollars in electricity costs every single year, flowing directly to utility companies and indirectly to the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning manufacturers whose systems must be sized to overcome a heat load that adequate attic ventilation would have neutralized at the source. The average residential roof lasts 15 to 20 years under standard conditions. Independent building science research, including studies from Oak Ridge National Laboratory, has documented that attics operating at sustained extreme temperatures accelerate shingle degradation, bringing the replacement cycle forward by 3 to 5 years. 3 to 5 additional years of roofing material sales, roofing labor contracts, and disposal costs, multiplied across 80 million homes. The financial incentive to keep attics hot is not theoretical. It is measured in billions of dollars of accelerated demand. And sitting in a United States Patent and Trademark Office database, publicly accessible, is the patent for the mesh configuration that the industry paid to remove from that equation. I want to be direct with you because this story deserves honesty alongside its outrage. Passive convective ventilation through optimized mesh performs best in climates with significant temperature differential and strong solar exposure. The desert Southwest, the Southeast, and the Sun Belt see the largest documented gains. In extremely humid northern climates where heating load dominates over cooling load, the benefit is real but proportionally smaller. Convective ventilation works most powerfully as part of a complete thermal management approach. The documented research consistently shows the largest gains when airflow combines with radiant barrier technology inside the attic space, the two mechanisms addressing the heat problem from complementary angles simultaneously. But for the core problem that defines summer energy costs across the hottest regions of the country, a superheated attic that drives continuous air conditioning load through every peak afternoon hour, the convective loop that weathers documented in 1987 and that the roofing industry bought in 1989, addresses the dominant heat mechanism directly, passively, and permanently. Without electricity, without maintenance, without a recurring revenue stream for anyone. That last part is why you have never heard of it until today. The Romans engineered convective airflow into their bathhouses 2,000 years ago. Gothic cathedral architects built it into stone vaulting 800 years ago. Lawrence Berkeley documented the residential application in 1984. Carl Weathers measured 44 degrees Fahrenheit of attic temperature reduction in university-verified testing and patented the optimized configuration in 1989. And within 18 months, the roofing industry bought that patent and made sure it never reached a single hardware store shelf. The physics has not changed. The patent is publicly readable. The University of Arizona data is on record. The Lawrence Berkeley study is archived. And the $47 billion roofing industry is still selling shingles that cook themselves to failure inside attics that a $20 mesh configuration would have kept 44 degrees Fahrenheit cooler for the lifetime of the building. Your attic is not supposed to be an oven. The Romans knew it, the cathedral builders knew it, Carl Weathers proved it, and the roofing industry paid good money in 1989 to make sure you never found out. Subscribe to Lost Tech Vault. Share this with someone paying too much every single summer to cool a house that the laws of physics already knew how to fix. The next vault opens soon, and what is inside it is heavier than this one.